Hi folks, you with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this chat, I'd like to talk about how President Joe Biden is, at his own admission, and his flunkies never stop telling us, he's the most popular president in US presidential history. So let's just look at that. This is based on an alleged 81 plus million votes that Biden allegedly received in the election. Now, there's a couple of things here that we need to sort of go through. One is that there was more votes cast in the 2020 election, and we're talking in the tune of 21 million more votes, I think it was, that's ever been cast in the history of United States presidential elections. So 21 million more, that's a huge amount of people who are voting who never voted previously. So that in itself is there's never been a turnout like that and compared to the previous election. So it was a huge turnout and an unexpected turnout. Now, if we look at say, the highest vote that any presidential candidate has ever received in any presidential election previously, that was Obama in 2008. Now, the turnout of college kids for Obama was absolutely phenomenal. I think every college kid in the United States must have turned out for Obama to vote in that election, and he won the election handily over a very lackluster candidate, John McCain, by close on 10 million votes. Now, Obama, whatever, I think Obama's a very bad president. I think he's created social division and advanced the globalist agenda in such a way that he'll be viewed, I think, in history as a terrible president. But look, he won the election, and I don't doubt it was legitimate. So, but say what you like about Obama, he campaigned tirelessly. He went the length and breadth of the country. He went to so many cities, and he was quite a good campaigner. He's a reasonably sort of photogenic guy. He's got a good voice, that deep resonance in the voice. He was trained and must have spent hundreds upon hundreds of hours in front of the video camera practicing his art, and he must have done reasonably well. He reads from the teleprompter quite well. So, and he said what people wanted to hear. I'm about change, and I'm about this. And little did people realize he was just pushing the globalist agenda and nothing else. But nonetheless, he was a tireless campaigner. He did a lot of campaigning, and to his reward for that much campaigning was that he got a lot of votes, and justifiably so. Now, McCain, by comparison, if you look at the amount of speeches and the time of the speeches and how many places he visited, McCain, who had some health issues, McCain campaigned probably half as much, maybe a little bit more than half, somewhere around there, half as much as Obama did, and he never was going to win that race. In fact, I'm intrigued the Republicans wanted to put up such a lackluster candidate. It's like they almost wanted Obama to win. Anyway, I'm sure the globalists wanted Obama to win. I'm sure he was picked for the sole purpose that he was black and he would win, and they could control him. So, but that's the thing there. If you don't campaign very much, you don't win a lot of votes. Now, that's just how it is, and reasonably so. You need to get out there and talk to people. And if you look at the states where Hillary Clinton, for example, didn't do very well or lost, there were states she didn't bother going to, and her campaigning I thought was a bit ordinary compared to the campaigning that Trump did. I thought he did quite a good job on the campaign trail. He visited a lot of places and talked to a lot of people, and got traction with the voters and the sort of things he was talking about, such as bringing American jobs back to America, cutting illegal immigration, these sorts of things. So Trump did quite well because he was a very energetic campaigner. Now, I don't know about the vote difference between Trump and Hillary. I mean, most of Hillary's votes were locked up in very blue states anyway, that would always be blue no matter what. So I don't think there's much to be gained in going through that. But if we come to Biden now and his supposed 81 million votes, now Biden campaigned hardly at all in the election. And the little campaigning he did do was very controlled and choreographed. He was clearly a man in mental decline. The media, mainstream media and the social media companies, they covered for him as much as they could, but it's pretty obvious he was a guy on the verge of serious mental decline who couldn't get out and campaign. There was all the bullshit about COVID, but he hardly campaigned at all. So the reality is that he would have struggled if we look at throughout history on presidential history or any history of anyone electioneering. If they don't go out and campaign and talk to people, then it's much harder for them to win votes. And Biden did hardly any. Yet we're supposed to believe that not only did he win by the highest record of votes ever gained for a presidential candidate, but that he beat Obama by 12 million votes. He got 12 million more votes than the very popular, very energetic campaigning Obama, where millions upon millions of college kids turned out for him. I don't think there's ever been a college kids turnout like that for Obama. So somehow Biden ended up getting 12 million more votes than Obama did, and yet he did no campaigning. He didn't even do a quarter of the campaigning that Obama did. In fact, it was to think of it, significantly less than a quarter of the campaigning Obama did, but somehow he ended up with getting 12 million more votes. Now, the other thing is that when a president stands for re-election, I think there's only one exception that's here. When a president stands for re-election after having served a full term, then there's only one case I'm aware of where they got significantly more votes than they did in the first term. Obama, for example, got 69 million and some in his first presidency, but in the second presidency he got, I think it was off the top of my head, about 65 million votes. So there's a drop of 4 to 5 million votes in Obama's second term. He still handily beat Mitt Romney, who again I thought was a lackluster candidate for the Republicans, but then that was the difference. I think he won by something like 5 million votes or thereabouts over Romney. Now, it's very rare that a candidate gets more votes. I mean, maybe a handful, but gets significantly more votes than they got the first time around. Now, Trump in the 2020 election got many more votes than he got in the first term. So he improved his position by several million votes. Which is very rare. If you look in presidential history, this is very rare when this happens for someone who's served a full term. Now, Trump was up against a very, very lackluster candidate who barely did any campaigning, but we're to believe that candidate got 12 million more votes than the very popular Obama did. Than the very popular Obama did. So that doesn't seem to stack up. Similarly, the Biden didn't do much campaigning or hardly any campaigning, and yet he was able to become the highest vote recording candidate ever in the history of the United States. And that's even if you look at it in not only total amount of votes, but in proportion of votes. He pretty much broke every record for presidential elections that have existed in the United States since the United States was founded. So that seems rather unlikely because there's been some very good candidates over the years who've campaigned strongly, who've been in the prime of their life. Their intellectual powers have been at the height of their powers. but Biden, a man in decline who didn't campaign or hardly campaigned, somehow breaks all records for votes in the presidential election. Now, this seems rather unlikely on the face of it. I mean, maybe he did. But if you look at all the markers and all the statistics and all the numbers and everything that's gone before, he should have struggled to get even 60 million votes in the overall scheme of things, but somehow he actually broke all records, and this is against the candidate Trump, who very rarely, I think it's the second time in US history, President has actually increased his vote from what he got the previous time, and substantially so. It wasn't by a small margin, wasn't it just a handful of votes. Trump did much better in 2020 than he did in 2016. Yet somehow, magically, a vast number of votes materialised to give Biden the win, and then that just seems rather improbable. Maybe it did happen. I don't know. I'm for one would want to have absolute confidence in the elections, or in any election for that matter, and it would be, I would think, a duty of the custodians of the electoral process to make absolutely sure that the integrity of the election is above suspicion, above even the slightest whiff of suspicion, and I don't see there's any interest in doing that, and that's concerning in itself. But going through this, just coming back to the original thing, we'd believe that a candidate who didn't campaign, who's in clear mental decline, regardless of, I mean, the media was all for Obama as well, but so regardless of how heavily the media was for Biden and how viciously they attacked Trump at every opportunity, Trump still managed to increase his vote in spite of all that. And I've never in all my life seen a media campaign so viciously against a candidate as I saw it against Trump. There was not even a pretense at impartiality from the media. They were out to get him. In spite of that, Trump substantially increased his vote. So we have to believe that he was beaten by a candidate in serious mental decline who didn't campaign and who broke all records for the amount of votes that he got and again, not just the total amount of votes, but the amount of extra people who turned out. So we're to believe that, which is just highly improbable. Throughout history, that hasn't happened. So it's highly improbable. And maybe there's still some work to be done on the issues of electoral integrity. You've been with Tassos today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.